thanks for meeting up, and it's great that you're getting able to like fill our hole in our D&D group. I don't know how many of my friends I asked before I found you, and well, thanks for stepping up. Don't worry, it's gonna be lots of fun. Alright, so first things first, we need to get you all set up with your character. Now the rest of the group has already made their characters, so I think they're paladin, a bard, and what was she playing? Oh, a sorcerer. So they actually have all like the major rules filled, so you actually will have a lot of freedom in what you actually want to build. So that's really cool, and you can do whatever you want. Sounds good. Well, like, let's back up for a second. So, have you played D&D before? Well, actually, it's Pathfinder, but it's still magic and goblins and swords. They're pretty much the same thing. Alright, no worries. Most of the players I play with are new, so you don't have to worry about that. Two of the other people in the group are new too, so you don't have to be self-conscious or awkward about being the only one learning. Alright, so, but just check in, you've played RPGs before though, like on video games and things like that. Alright, good. I've had some players who don't know anything at all, and I've had to come back and teach them what hit points are. So that's fun, but fortunately but if there's any term I gloss over and you don't know, just let me know, and I will help take care of it. Alright, so, let's go over the stuff I want you to pick up before we start the session, in probably about a couple weeks. So the first thing off is that I don't need you to pick up any books because they can be a little expensive at first, and if you don't really know you want to get into it, you can share the books that I and a few of the other players have, and if later on you want to pick it up, it will help you learn, but you don't have to right now. It is perfectly reasonable to just go off that for the first few months. But the first thing, something I will ask you to pick up is dice. So you can find a standard set of dice at any game store or comic book store or hobby store, and if nothing else, you can find them online. So just pick up like one standard set of dice. It shouldn't cost more than like $10 at most if you want to get a fancy one. Maybe two. Two is usually helpful, but I also have lots of spares. I buy it by the pound. Alright, so in a standard set of dice, it's going to be a collection of dice. The first one is going to be a D4, which look like this. They're just little triangles. Very nice and simple for little small packs of damage and stuff. Next is 6-sided dice, or D6s, which look more or less like your normal dice. So 6 sides, it's a cube. Yeah. Next is actually probably my favorite. I don't know, aesthetically they're very nice, but that's an 8-sided die, which is just like this. It's a bunch of triangles and very nice. I say very nice a lot. I need to stop doing that. Next is a D10. D10s are like this, and I'd say they're one of the more used ones, just because a lot of the high damage weapons will use D10s, and players tend to gravitate more to damage weapons. Now a set will often also have another D10 which actually has little zeros on it. This is used with the normal D10 to make a number between like 1 and 100, but you usually won't have to worry about that. But just so you know, that's what the D100 is for, or the percentile dice as it's fancily called. Then there's also a D12, which is these big ones. You don't really use these that often, so you probably won't have to worry about it. And then finally, there is the most important one, the D20. 20-sided die, just like that. And most rolls that you do is like you roll a D20, you'll add a modifier that determines if like you successfully hit the goblin or climb the cliff or seduce the innkeeper, whatever you want. That's what they'll do. So those are the dice you want to pick up. Maybe pick one or two sets. Depends on your class. Like if you end up being like a fighter with a long sword, you might pick up lots of D8s because you have to make lots of damage attacks. and you can pick them up in bulk at like a game store, but don't worry about that right now. So the next thing I want you to pick up is just a notebook. Just having a nice notebook and collection to put all your notes together, write down all the loot you get, or like what's that NPC's name, or like what's the quest that one innkeeper gave us, and things like that. So it helps you keep track of that and just keep all the information together. It can be like a composition notebook or a small thing. I use a sketchbook because I'm an artist and I like doodling in the margins. Or it can even just be a folder with like loose sheets of paper in it. But the main thing is just keep it all together. Don't lose it. Keep it organized. Yeah. And then I would recommend doing those things in pencil, just like math class, because many things can change very quickly. Also, don't worry about picking up like a miniature or something like these. I have tons of them, and I'll bring my big box to the first section, and you can choose out which one you want for your character. All right then. All right, so now that we have all that settled out, let's move on to making your character. I got actually your character sheet all right here, and we're going to fill that out together. Sound good? All right. So, have you given any thought to what you might want to play? No? All right. Anything in particular you want? Like, do you want to like cast spells, or have a bow and shoot people down, or like have a pet? You like the idea of having a pet? All right, we can work with that. So there's actually a bunch of different classes that use pets. So I would recommend probably... So do you want more to be magical? Like helping with your spells and your studies and that sort of thing? Or do you want it to be more... Go attack bear, maul my enemies in my name? More the latter? Sounds like a plan. Alright, so for a new player, I would recommend playing a ranger if that's what you want. Technically, they don't get their animal companion until 4th level, but we can smudge it a little. Like, your attack bear is with you, but isn't quite ready for the attack part of its name yet. Alright, but the other option would be to play a druid, which is a bit more magical focused, it's a bit more complex. You want to go with ranger? Alright, that sounds fine. We'll go with ranger then. Alright, let's talk about what race you want to play. Now, some options are mechanically better than others, but the focus of my campaign is more the story rather than like making the best possible party and best tactical choices possible. So feel free to always choose like the more fun and flavorful option rather than always being like, this will maximize my damage in every step of the way. So you don't need to do that. If you want to, that's fine. That's your thing, but you don't have to. I will balance the campaign to your power level. So for races, you can be like a half-orc or an elf or a dwarf or like the most exotic race of them all, humans. I actually kind of want to play humans. I mean, I like humans a lot. They're nice and versatile, and they have like lots going on. You can do cool things with story. I know some humans I like. I've maybe kissed a few of them, so I must say A+ on humans. They're a solid race. Alright, so human ranger. That sounds like a plan. So that's right. Class is ranger and human. Oh, how do you spell your name again? Alright. So next big thing you need to choose is your ability scores. They're like the base attributes of your character and like determine how good you are at things generally. Now, do you want to be the kind of ranger who like shoots things from afar with a bow, or goes in with 2 swords and like chops up your opponent to tiny bits? Or the bow type? Nice classic ranger. Alright, so you'll probably want your best ability score to be in dexterity. That's like how good you're at aiming and balance and that sort of thing. So that'll determine most of your accuracy and damage and stuff. So probably secondly, you're going to want wisdom, because it helps with your like naturey abilities and your like ability to survive in the wild. And later on, you get more spells that revolve on your wisdom. So you're probably want your wisdom to be there. And then next is the rest of your skills. Like, what do you want to be important to you? The other skills are strength, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's how strong you are. Constitution is kind of like how tough you are. Intelligence is like your book smarts, like how much can you memorize. And then charisma is how sexy you are and how good you are at seducing, said innkeeper I referenced. Right, you don't really care about intelligence? That's fun. It's always kind of fun to play a bit of a dim character at times. Alright, and you want high charisma? Or high-ish charisma. You're no bard. Alright, so what I got here for you right now is 12 in strength, 16 in dexterity, 12 in constitution, 8 in intelligence, 14 in wisdom, and 13 charisma. Does that sound good? Oh, you also get +2 for being a human to anything. So what do you want to be even better at? Dexterity? Not a bad choice. Help with your main stat and get that going. Alright then. So let's go over some of the abilities you get. So for being a human, you get pretty much 2 main things. Is you get an extra feat at first level, which we'll go over that later, and an extra skill point. We'll go over those when we get there. So essentially you get some extra general things that everyone gets, but you get more of them. Your speed is 30 feet, which is pretty standard, and you have normal vision. You don't get special elf eyes, so you can't see in the dark as well, or across miles and miles, but that's alright. And then you don't actually learn any languages because you're not quite smart enough to learn another language, but don't worry about that. Common is spoken almost everywhere, except when it's conveniently not, and you'll be stuck with a bunch of people who only speak Dwarven, and you'll be stuck there, and it will be funny. Alright, so then for your ranger abilities. So you get a few things for being a ranger. The first off is your armors and weapons you can use. You can use simple and martial weapons, which encompasses most things that aren't like spiked chain, but everything from like swords and bows and axes and that sort of thing, you can know how to use them. You'll also know how to use medium and light armor. So you can't really use a heavy plate armor. You're not a knight. You need to stay mobile and run through the wilderness. So, yeah. You also have track, which lets you track people and animals better than almost anyone else. Makes sense since you're a ranger. And then finally, you also have... actually, no, you have 2 more abilities. You have wild empathy, which lets you kind of like negotiate with animals and improve their attitude towards you. So you can like calm an injured wolf so you can heal it, and that sort of thing. It's fun. And then finally you have your favored enemy, and you get to make a choice on this one. So essentially you've like specialized in killing and tracking and knowing everything you can about a certain foe. And so what generally do you want to be really good at fighting? It can be any general group like goblins or the fae or dragons. You want dragons? Good choice. I mean, like, who doesn't want to kill a dragon? I mean, it's called Dungeons and Dragons. You're not going to kill a dungeon. You can't kill a dungeon. Wait. Story idea. Killable dungeon. It's alive. Eats adventurers. Gotcha. Okay. Ignore that. Moving on. So next is going to be your skills. Now, rangers get a bunch of skills. They get 6 every level, but you do take a penalty because of your intelligence score, but then it's negated by the fact that you are human. So, fancy, good job being a human, not so good job for dropping out of high school, I guess. Alright, so you have something called class skills, which are skills that you're like really good in because like you were trained as a ranger, and you'll get bonuses. I'd recommend sticking to these at first, but you don't have to. But for right now, I'm just going to read the ones and explain the ones that are class skills. So just nod or let me know when you actually want one of the skills. Alright, so you get 6 of these, so you get plenty of options and you'll be very skillful in the party. So first is climb, which is climbing things. Climb a cliff, climb a rope, climb a ladder, although that isn't hard, so you probably wouldn't need to climb a ladder. But you get the idea. Next is craft, which is everything from like leather working, or metal smithing, or basket weaving. I mean, the basket weaving build is really taking over the meta, and I am so tired of all of these characters by default choosing craft basket weaving. Like, seriously, stop it. Be original for once. Where was I? Oh, okay. Handle animal. That's your ability to like control like your mount in combat. Or, well, not controlling your mount in combat. That's more ride, but like calm down like an animal, or like train a dog to help you hunt, things like that. Heal helps you like do first aid, attend to wounds, like to keep care of people over time. It's not magical healing. The bard of the party will get that covered, but it's more first aid type stuff. Intimidate is being all scary and stuff. I would make a scary face, but then you would just laugh at me, so I'm not going to. Next is knowledge dungeoneering, which is like your ability knowing like about caves and like traps and stuff. Like not finding traps, but knowing about them. Being like, this would be a good place to put some dwarven spike traps. Yes. I don't know if that's what your character's going to sound like, but I mean, work on a voice. They're very fun. Next is knowledge geography, which is like your knowledge of like geography. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's like a subject in school. Like, do you know where places are? And then finally, knowledge nature. That's your ability to like be like, oh, I know about this weather pattern, or I can identify this animal or tree, and that sort of thing. Perception, which is probably one of the most important skills in the game, besides craft basket weaving. It allows you to see stuff and look around and hear intruders coming to your camp. Actually, like in 5th edition, they've split it into 2 skills. There's perception and investigate, so it doesn't put all the importance in perception. But here, perception is still important. I would highly recommend picking up perception, especially since you are a ranger. Next is profession, which is kind of like it's kind of like craft, but for trades that aren't making something. So a sailor would be a profession, but like you wouldn't have like armor smithing, even though like an armor smith is a job. So it's like services, that's the word. All right. So ride, which is your ability to like this is what it's like, ability to control a horse in combat or something like that. Spellcraft is your ability to like your knowledge of how magic works and your ability to weave spells and things like that. You probably won't need it until you get actual spells at 4th level, but you're free to take it now. Stealth is your ability to go sneaky. And then finally, survival, which is your ability to like survive in the wilderness. It's like, I want to scrounge for food or go hunting and things like that. That's survival. And actually finding is swim, which is self-explanatory. It's how well you can swim. Alright, sounds good. So, I have you said was climb, handle animal, heal, perception, stealth, and survival. Is that something? Alright. Well, that is skills done. Okay. So, the next thing we're going to have to do is feats. Now, feats are kind of like general abilities that your character has, things that will customize it. And now there are hundreds of feats. So we could spend all day going over the options, but I'll give you 2 that I recommend. The first would be weapon focus, which will let you just be more accurate with your longbow. It's a nice, easy modifier. You don't have to like remember I'm better at this. And then I would also recommend a feat that's point blank shot, which lets you get extra damage and accuracy when you're within 30 feet of your target. So, I mean, you're more at risk because you're close by, but you also at the same time can get the little extra damage, so risk reward there. Also, it is a requirement for some other abilities you might have. So does that sound good? Alright, sounds good. So, weapon focus, and point blank shot. Alright, that sounds good. So we're actually on to the most fun part, which is shopping. So you have about 175 gold to spend on armor, weapons, other gear, that sort of thing. So for weapons, we know you want a longbow. And that's going to cost you 75 gold, which isn't too bad, but yeah. So long bow. And then for your melee weapon, what are you thinking? Do you want like a sword or like a mace or an axe? Just a long sword? Okay. That is going to run you 15 gold. So long sword, got lots of longs. For your armor, what are you thinking? Do you want more heavier, that's more perspective, or do you want to keep it light and stay mobile and like nice and light on your feet? Sounds good? Alright, sounds good. Then I would recommend stud leather if you want more mobility. It is a nice balance between protection while still giving you maximum speed and minimal penalties. Within your budget, of course. You can't afford magical, like, amazing armor yet. And then finally, you can just pick up, like, there's a basic adventuring kit for 10 gold that, like, has your basic supplies, your bedroll, rations, a backpack, that sort of thing, torches. What that? Alright. Basic adventuring kit. And then finally, you actually have 70 gold left after this, by my count. Oh, you should probably pick up some arrows. That is nice to have with a bow. I won't make you keep track of arrows, but it's nice to just note that you have arrows on you. But I don't make you keep track of, like, you only have 3 arrows left. Better watch out. No, I don't really care about that. So, but you actually have enough gold that if you wanted to, you could upgrade your bow to a composite longbow, which would give it extra range and some other benefits later. You want to do that? Sounds good. So now it's a longbow composite. Alright. This will still give you some gold to start the game with, so if you want to, like, bribes, like a guard or something, you still have the resource to do that. Alright. So, I think mechanically, though, your character is done. So you actually have a lot of, like, individual numbers and stuff to still fill out, but you should be able to do that on your own. It's mostly just addition and stuff, or taking numbers from other parts of the sheet. But if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help. Just text me or pop me a message. So the next thing I want you to think about is more of story ideas. Like, who are you? Like, what drove you to become a ranger? Like, do you have a family? Like, where do you come from? That sort of thing. I can send you some more campaign information that I've written, and I'll send a few documents your way for that. Also, you'll need a reason to be in the town of Silvercliff, which is where the game's starting. It's a city that grew rich off of trade with local mining towns. So it's a fair-sized city. You might want a reason why a woodland ranger is in this large metropolis. Okay, not quite a metropolis, but you get the point. And also you'll want to think of a name. So, but you have time to think about that, and just let me know what's going on. Well, I think that's a bit about it. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. I can't wait to play with you. It's going to be a blast, and I'm sure the rest of the group is going to have a lot of fun. So far, honestly, your character's looking like it'll probably be doing most of the damage early on. Martial characters tend to do that, but that just means lots of fun your way these first few sessions. Alright, well then, I don't hesitate with any questions, and I guess I will see you next week for our first session. Alright, see ya.